What is up, my friends? You are very welcome along to tonight's late night agenda, where of course we are going to be discussing the breaking news of the day, which is Liverpool close to an agreement for Hugo Ekitike from Eintracht Frankfurt. Obviously, we're going to have a discussion about what that means moving forward. We're going to have a discussion about what other opportunities may present themselves for the Reds in this transfer window. But we tried to warn everyone. We tried to tell the Newcastle fans yesterday what was going to happen. If we don't get Isak, we're going to move on to Ekitike and he will want to join us. And that has happened. Now, I know that they're trying to sell themselves this mad vision that they've somehow won in this little battle. I don't know how they've come to that conclusion when, well, they've lost Ekitike, who they've wanted for 3 windows, and they still have Isak, which of course is their prerogative, we've said all the way through. But I do love the meltdown from them, and I'm going to have a little bit of fun with our Newcastle supporting friends tonight, because I noticed something over on Instagram and it had me rolling around the place laughing. We're due to play Liverpool at home in the second game of the season, writes Newcastle supporters worldwide. We'd still like the fans to show respect to Jota, but this game should have a frosty atmosphere now. Right, lads, how do I say this? You're not that important to us. You had your little moment in the sun. You were able to bask in the glow of Liverpool for a little bit. And now that we're moving on and your crown jewel is still there, you can just sit there empty-handed, balls in hand, and just watch as Liverpool go about their transfer business. It's hilarious to watch. It really is. I've never seen a bigger bunch of wet wipes in my life than the Newcastle fans on social media. Now, there are Newcastle fans we all like, of course. True Geordie, an absolute gent of a man. The Irish guy, an absolute legend as well. And somebody I'm proud to call a mate. But in all honesty, it's been the level of delusion I've never seen, even from an Arsenal fan base, over a player that we were willing to overpay for anyway. And if you talk to any Liverpool fan, we'd all say 120, 130 million for Isak was over the top. But if that's what the club wanted, so be it. But, like we mentioned, Isak wants Liverpool. Newcastle don't want to sell him. That's okay. He's their player. That's their prerogative. But Ekitike isn't, nor will he be, because Liverpool have made that move. And guess what? Hugo Ekitike wants to join the Arne Slot revolution. And quite frankly, who can blame him? So let me know, Newcastle fans, how in your warped little minds you've suddenly figured out a way to think you won in this situation. Exactly what we told you was going to happen happened. And everybody trying to say, oh, we'll have the last laugh when we have Isak and Ekitike at the start of the season. How's that working, motherfuckers? How's that working? Let me know in the comments. I await your thoughts. Right, let's get cracking. Couple of early ones that I wanted to say thank you for. Paul, thank you, mate. Appreciate you. Ekitike had me rolling. Love it. Well, that's what I'm going to call him now. Ekitike. You know, so when we turn him into Isak 2.0, it'll be all good, my man. And look, in all honesty, I don't know if Ekitike is going to be a great success at Liverpool or not. I don't know enough about him, but I do trust the process. Right, I'd rather Yildiz over RODRYGO, said Joseph Purvis. Okay. Don't know what to say. There's no talk of us being in for Yildiz that I'm aware of, nor do I think Juventus would want to sell him, but look, we'll go through it all tonight. I'm still dubious, to say the least, about Liverpool's interest in RODRYGO. I don't know. Lots of reports to say it's genuine, and I hope it is, and we'll talk about it tonight. But ultimately, I'm relaxed about it. Like I've said, I trust the club to get in the players that work best in Arne Slot's system, whether that's Isak or whether that was Ekitike, whether that's Gordon, whether that's RODRYGO. Genuinely, I'm calm about it because we know it's going to be dealt with, and that is pretty good to say as a Liverpool fan in this window. It's been really encouraging. Right, and by the way, just to get back to Newcastle fans for a second, sincerely appreciate the gesture of the respect for Diogo Jota, and I would expect nothing less from Newcastle fans, to be honest, but I've just seen some mad meltdowns over the last 24 hours, and it's just been fun to watch because it hasn't even taken much effort to get these people wound up. It's hilarious. Has Isak had cornrows? Is his name a Panadone? Does he have a nickname like Hugo Boss? Well, Ekitike is what we're calling him now, let's be honest. Does he have cool sunglasses now? Then bring him. Look, I'm respectful all the way through, like I've said. I've understood Newcastle's reluctance to sell Alexander Isak. He's their star boy. But he's going to leave them eventually. And they're never going to get as much money as was on offer this summer. And like we said, a tongue-in-cheek video the other day about saying they should be grateful and thank us for helping them with the rebuild. Of course, it was meant as tongue-in-cheek, but also there is truth to the fact that it would have helped them with some of their PSR concerns. But now they have to start shopping around, and they're looking at Visa. They're looking at Sheshko. Again, sloppy seconds, thirds, fourths, whatever you want to call it. You must have been joking in the WhatsApp channel saying that Newcastle want Darwin. Look, I don't know if it's true or not, but there's been reports on it today to say that Newcastle were looking at Darwin. I'm just trying to find exactly where the report came from, because there it is. Dave O'Seacop has said, Darwin Núñez is a striker option for Newcastle according to Bild. Now again, that's coming from Germany, so why Germany would have the latest on this, I don't know, but they've reported that Newcastle are looking at Darwin Núñez. And one thing I will say to Newcastle fans is he is for sale. You can have him, no problem. We won't kick up a fuss about it, or cry arse to our Saudi owner saying, can you stop them? Can you stop the Saudi Pro League buying Darwin Núñez because we're not happy? Diddums. No, that's not how this works, fellas. That's not how this works. Right. And I thought the Geordies were supposed to have a good sense of humour. My God, one little video of me smirking, 6.1 million views on X. You know what I mean? And they're all out there going, look at this fat Irish gobshite. 6.1 million views, fellas. Thanks to you. So I really do appreciate it. What if we Real sell Junior and Rodrigo by Isak? Look, I don't know what happens. That offer that's apparently on the table for Vinny Jr. is insane. Talk about 1 billion in wages over 5 years, which would be tax-free, and a 350 million offer. I think Real Madrid would be lunatics if they said no to that, and I think Vinicius Jr. would be mad. Like, 1 billion in tax-free wages over 5 years. Oh, come on. You don't even have to pretend to be going to say football. You just go over there and say, I want that money, thank you very much. Right, Loro said Wirtz behind Hugo will hit different. Look, I don't know about... I watched a few compilations of Hugo Ekitike over the past 24 hours. Seen some good, seen some bad. Certainly not the finished product, but you wouldn't expect him to be a 23. And this story has moved pretty quickly today. So look, let's stop the banter for a minute and actually get stuck into where we're at. So as the day has gone on, there's been different variations of this story, but it all came about pretty quickly when the likes of, well, the paper who we don't mention, and Florian Plettenberg and David Ornstein and Fabrizio Romano all said basically some variation of this deal's moving quickly and we know Liverpool don't hang around. So what I don't get here, though, is the Newcastle fans who feel like we're trying to bully them. Let me just put it to you like this. This is what happened, and you tell me how this is bullying. Hi there, Newcastle. Knock, knock. Is Isak available? No. Okay. You sure now? Yeah, he's not available. No problem. Thank you, lads. Appreciate that. We just happen to move on to our next target now, who's Hugo Ekitike, who you also like. Can you explain to me in what world that's bullying? Because that's what these cry arses are out there saying. That Liverpool tried to bully Newcastle. By what? By talking about a factual subject? Would you like to sell your player for a record fee more than he's worth? And you said no and we moved on. How is that bullying? What you don't want to accept is that we knew that Ekitike would crawl over broken glass to come and play for Liverpool. And that is the part that you're struggling to come to terms with. And that's okay. It's okay. These things happen. It's happened to us in the past. But right now, Liverpool are a club on the up and up, and players are obviously dying to come and play here. Look at Isak. He wanted to come. Ekitike wanted to come. Why is that? Because we're a pretty attractive club right now. So stop this trying to bully us shite. We made an offer or an inquiry from a player that you told us wasn't for sale, and we moved on. No bullying involved in that. The only thing that's hurt here is, well, your feelings, because I don't understand how you are so touchy over the transfer window. This is how football works. Can we buy your player? No. Okay, we move on. That's called an offer to most people, but bullying if you're a Newcastle fan. Bullying. Wirtz will score 10 Premier League goals, said Jaden Walker. What'll be the reaction if they sign Darwin? They'll have bullied us into submission. You know, if they sign Darwin, they'll have bullied us, and there's nothing we could have done about it, you know? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So, this piece here from Fabrizio Romano, said, Newcastle have now already left talks for Hugo Ekitike. Deal considered off at this stage. Well, yes, they left it because the big boys entered the room and they knew that they were wasting their time when Liverpool made their play for Ekitike. Fabrice Hawkins said, Hugo Ekitike and Liverpool reached an agreement over a 6-year deal. The player only wants Liverpool. Shall I say that again? The player only wants Liverpool despite us being bullies. In the last 24 hours, he's rejected Manchester United and Newcastle have left the talks. Newcastle United are exploring a deal to sign Brentford striker Johan Wiese after cooling their interest in Eintracht Frankfurt. Cooling their interest. That's what we're going with, Mr. Ornstein, is it? Or walking away with their tail between their legs. That's what actually happened. But it's okay. I know the journalists have to pat the fans on the head because they need the clicks. But for me, I can call it like it is. And Newcastle fans have shown themselves up to be the most sensitive, touchy fan base I've encountered in my 8 years here. And that says a lot because we've dealt with Arsenal fans. I've been honestly, I can't take the smirk off my face today. I just can't. I've just been going around all day smiling because life's pretty good. Yesterday it was all, oh, we'll have both of them. You're all so arrogant. We'll have both of them at the start of the season. Why don't you come to St. James's Park for the second game of the season? We'll have Isak, we'll have Ekitike, we'll have Pele, Maradona, and we'll be invincible, so we will. How's that going, boys? Is it good? Imagine if we sign Isak as well. Look, again, we listened to them. Newcastle said not for sale, and we moved on. That's what I don't understand about their moaning here. You know, if we had just kept trying to destabilise them, fair enough, but we made an inquiry, and we changed. We moved. That's okay. You know, we were respectful in my eyes. We could have really shithoused the situation and tried to destabilise them, Real Madrid-like, but we didn't. And I think Liverpool have done the right thing here. You know, they made the inquiry, we were told no, and they moved on. Marcus. So I don't know if it's only me, but the Isak hype makes Ekitike signing a bit underwhelming. Hope it's a blessing in disguise. Love your channel, my highlight during the days. Thank you, man. Look, Isak would have been amazing. It would have been absolutely wonderful and would have bagged a load of goals for us. I hope that Ekitike can come in and do the same thing. I'm always been honest and said I don't know enough about Hugo Ekitike to sit here and tell you whether it'll be a brilliant signing or not. But I do trust the recruitment team. And Chelsea had a look at him, United had a look at him, Newcastle had a look at him, and Liverpool have finally made their move once they knew the door was closed on Isak. And we all knew that that was going to be the case. So I'm not surprised. Again, Liverpool do move quickly. So, and one thing I've always said, as much as I would have loved Isak, and I absolutely would have, 130 million is overpriced. And I said that yesterday, even there was a possibility that we would get him. Everybody knew it was overpriced, but we were willing to pay that to try and get the player out of the club. Didn't happen, we moved on, but we can't stand still, and we've always said that Liverpool will have a plan A, B and C, and now that plan's coming into operation. Happy days. So I'm going to ask, are you happy? Because it'd be interesting to see how everybody's feeling about this. So, 1 second. Okay. So, are you happy with Ekitike looking like he's signing? That's the first poll of the night, because I know some people mightn't be over the moon about it. If I'm being really honest with you, I'm somewhat uncertain about it, but I do trust the club. I was watching Sky Sports back pages last night, and I think the gentleman's name was Carl Anka, who's one of the athletic journalists, and he was fulsome in his praise of Hugo Ekitike. And some people, it's really weird, because some people think this guy's destined to be a superstar, and then other people are totally unsure on him. So it's really tough to get a read when you haven't watched that much of him. And again, being honest, I haven't. Emor Ragav said, I'm happy we're sorting our attack for the next few years, but I'm a wee bit concerned the centre-back situation. So I've been looking into the centre-back situation as much as I can. And I wonder, are we just waiting to see what happens with Canade? Because a report that came out today suggested that Canade isn't happy with the offer from Liverpool and he would like more guaranteed money. Now, that's not good news, but it's not the worst news. Because if the report had have said that Canade just wants to go and there's no chance of him staying or there's no chance of him extending, that would have been a lot worse. So I don't know where we are with that situation, but I understand Liverpool taking a pause while we see, because the plan would have been sell Kwanzaa, bring in a young defender. Whether that was Haddo, whether that was the kid from Parma, whether that was somebody else, I don't know. And obviously the Canade doubt has thrown that up in the air a little bit. So I understand Liverpool taking a pause for a moment. And also, the Ekitike situation became time sensitive because Newcastle had made their move and Liverpool, one, needed to see if Newcastle would sell Isak and they said no. So obviously we then had to go and start the process here. Well, further the process, I should say, really. Any centre-back updates? Gay should be a priority. Again, I would imagine it will be sorted. Like, they'll know they need a centre-back. But, I don't know, I'm starting to get a little bit more hope that maybe Ibu stays. It's not really based on anything I've heard that you don't know, to be honest, but it's more... I don't know, I've always refused to write Ibu off in my head completely. I don't know, maybe it's because I have a soft spot for him, but I still have some hope there that maybe Liverpool can find a breakthrough with him and then we can go get a young centre-back, but we'll have to wait and see. This one, Kean said, it's my birthday tomorrow. Thanks for an amazing 2025. Well, happy birthday, Kean, my man. Yeah, hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you for sharing the good news with us that it's your birthday tomorrow, my man. I appreciate you being with us here on the channel as well. Gravin N said, buying Isak next year. I don't know what the case will be there, to be honest with you. Like, if he won't sign a new deal at Newcastle, they probably have to consider the situation more next summer because he'd be getting to that 2 years to go. And they'd probably still get very good money from next summer, to be fair, but I don't think they'll ever see the money that's on the table now, which, in my view, we would have been overpaying, but, you know, Liverpool had looked at him as the dream target, so hard to say. I wonder, though, I don't see us sticking around for Isak next year. I think we've probably made our decision here with Ekitike, and we just proceed with that and, you know, make any other adjustments that we need to, especially with Jayden Danns coming through as well. I would be surprised if we went back in for Isak next year. Right, some more comments to get through. What's this one? Great to be here after months of trying, said Derek. Well, I appreciate you being in as well, Derek. Thank you, sir. Lovely to have you in with us. Sounds like the Newcastle fans are scared and salty. It feels like a massive overreaction, right, to what is a normal thing in the transfer window. A club knocking on your door and saying, hey, is X or Y for sale? You, as the selling club, have every right to say yes or no, or to set a price. And Newcastle said no, and we moved on. And they're still running around trying to claim that we were trying to bully them by making a respectful offer. It's very weird, and I didn't realise that they were so touchy because they've always had a good sense of humour, and I really don't understand what's happened over this situation, but they've lost their minds. It's been crazy to watch. Can we get up to 333,333 subs by the end of the stream? Oh, I don't know. Can we? Right, well, that is the dream, by the way, is to get the 1/3 of a million on tonight's stream. So if you haven't subscribed, let's see if we can get 333. Be the most Irish thing ever. 333,333 most Irish set of numbers in the history of the world. Right, let's keep going. Joseph. Hey Craig, I watch every morning from Australia. You may have seen me in the normal chat too, and I just wanted to say keep it up. Oh Joseph, I know you, sir. You've been around a long time, bro, and I greatly appreciate you being with us, my man. Thank you. Terry Kildare said, at least we went straight to the club. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. I actually feel like Liverpool were respectful here and didn't do the Madrid thing of, trying to just unsettle the player for all the way through the window. And we could have just kept going and going and going. But we accepted Newcastle's stance of no and moved on. And I'm sad we didn't get Isak, because obviously I would have loved him at the club. I think he would have loved to have played as well. But, it is what it is, and I'm just happy that we moved on to the next target. Matthew said, whatever anyone thinks of his ability, he rejected Newcastle, Chelsea and United, waited for us knowing full well he was second choice. I love him already. Well, there was actually a report on that, and there's one I have to go back to in a second. Actually, Joe, I'll answer it now from Keith before I forget. How many goals are you expecting from Ekitike? I haven't got a clue, mate. I don't mind who scores the goals for us as long as Liverpool win games of football. But let's say 20 to 25 in all comps, and I'd be happy with that. Was there anything else on the Gay front? Again, not that I'm aware of. Newcastle are going to be interested, and they've long been interested in Mark Gay, and I think he's probably waiting to see if Liverpool advance in their negotiations with Crystal Palace. Right, where was this one I was saying to you a second ago? There was something about Liverpool. Was it this one? One sec. I want to read this out to you because it plays into one of the comments that you guys mentioned a second ago. Oh, I want to talk to you about 3 rule changes that's coming up in football or being debated in football at the minute as well. Oh, here we go. So Fabrizio Romano said this. Richard Hughes always had this clear plan. Let's try for Isak, but Hugo Ekitike is not a second choice. He is a player they wanted since the beginning of the window. Obviously, if you can get a dream like Isak, then why not try? So that's the state of play. And obviously Ekitike understands that and loves the idea of coming and progressing his career. And I think there's going to be 20% sell-on clause going to Paris Saint-Germain for whatever fee above what they paid Frankfurt. I think 20% sell-on clause there for PSG. Jaden said, Ekitike is like a baby Isak. It's up to Arne to develop him into greatness. So yeah, watching some of the highlight reels earlier on, it was easy to see what you guys were talking about as well. That he looks a bit rough in some situations. Loves a goal from outside the box, by the way, by the looks of it. But yeah, it looks the unfinished, but that's okay. At 23, you wouldn't expect a striker to be the finished product, but yeah, like Newcastle did developing Isak, and they did that very well. I think Arne will look at Ekitike and feel that he can have a similar influence maybe on Ekitike in the same way Eddie Howe has had there with Alexander Isak. Nick Kingdom, how are we, sir? Said, evening, Craig. This whole scenario at Newcastle, if we can't have your number one striker, we'll take your number one target, is hilarious and brilliant. About time Liverpool started striking the fear into our domestic and international rivals. Yeah. And I don't understand how they don't understand that that's the game, The same way it's happened to us before. We've been turned down by players before. It happens. But it was always going to be the case that if they wouldn't sell Isak, we were going to move on to Ekitike, and nothing's changed there. That's the way this has panned out. Oh, good question, Jordan. Good question. Jordan Farrell Barber. So obviously I don't need your services too much there, bro. But I have doubts, Jordan. I have doubts about it. There's clear reporting that we're interested. I mean, just tonight, Jordan, there was a report from, I think was it ESPN in Brazil? Bear with me, mate. I'm just flying through. Yeah, it was ESPN in Brazil. Said Liverpool have now fully entered the race for Rodrygo. They want to sign him. So, there are a lot of reports to say we are in, but there's also been one or two that play down the interest from the Liverpool side. So, truth is, mate, I don't know what to believe. I don't know whether we're really interested or not. But, and Newcastle won't want to hear this, we may revisit Newcastle for Anthony Gordon keep an eye on that situation as well. And honestly, Newcastle fans, if we come knocking for Gordon and offer you about 65, 70 million quid, take the money. Respectfully take the money. Because you've got Harvey Barnes and you need to build out the squad. And Newcastle, to their eternal credit, have stayed within the PSR rules. They haven't taken the piss since they've been taken over. They've tried to do things in the right way. They've built the club bit by bit. And I genuinely think, much as I thought with the Isak money, that would help them out. And I don't mean to say like we're doing them a favour, but there's no denying that if they had sold us Isak or they sell the likes of Gordon, it would give them a lot of wiggle room. And I say this knowing that at least half of my chat probably have no interest in Anthony Gordon. And I ran a poll in our WhatsApp earlier on, and I asked basically, which one of these would you like? Rodrigo, Gordon, or somebody else? And it's about 75 to 80% said Rodrigo. And if you're looking at similar money as well, I think it becomes a no-brainer. If you remove the homegrown element in it, I think it becomes a no-brainer. S4T, how are we, bro? Said, a season or two ago, Bakayoko was believed to be a wonder kid. Now he was sold for cheap to Leipzig. Did he drop off so bad? He impressed me when we played PS3, when they beat us in the last Champions League game. Now, dead rubber for us pretty much, but he looked all right. Scored in the game, if I remember correctly as well. Yeah, he was always been linked with a move to the Prem. Even if it wasn't Liverpool, I think Spurs had been linked with him and a few other clubs. Oh, we're only 19 away now from 333. So if you haven't hit that subscribe button, folks, please do. Hobbit Hoskin, we changed from Shane, the Hobbit. Said, happy with all the signings so far. I want Rodrigo, but support the club fully in the process. Keep up the shenanigans, Craig. I hope Newcastle fans know all of this is meant with love. I am just a shithouse. I don't apologise for being me. That's what football fandom's supposed to be about. I just couldn't believe that their buttons were so easy to press. Honestly, I thought they'd be a bit hardier than that. Was Haddo linked with Chelsea today? Bad move if it happened. To be fair to Chelsea, he's been linked for quite a while with a few clubs in the Premier League. Chelsea being one of them, Liverpool being one of them. Yeah. So, I don't know. I want to read you out something actually about Florian Wirtz, if I might. It's from his dad, and his dad was speaking with Der Spiegel about why Florian Wirtz chose to come to Liverpool and didn't go to the likes of Bayern, and this is what his dad had to say. He said, several clubs were interested, but in the end, Bayern and Liverpool were the only serious contenders. Did you hear that, Man City? Bayern and Liverpool were the only serious contenders. I couldn't make any promises because Florian ultimately makes the decision. At the time, it was still open, and Bild reported that he would join Bayern. The situation with Bayern was difficult because Uli Hoeneß and Karl-Heinz Rummenigge made an incredible effort and also clearly analysed the sporting possibilities. We had spoken with Uli Hoeneß several times before. He was as objective and fair as he could be, and as I know him to be. But of course, he couldn't hide his disappointment. After all, he had personally put a lot of effort into this transfer. Florian had this feeling. We understood it and supported him completely. We set ourselves a deadline for Thursday after the secret meeting with Liverpool. All three of us had the same perception and we all made the decision in favour of Liverpool together. Florian saw the move abroad as a new personal and sporting challenge and therefore chose Liverpool FC. We shared that view. You could see that the conversation with Arne Slot was decisive. Arne Slot was able to convince Florian on a sporting level. He's also a very pleasant person. Florian's best coaches were always those who gave him a lot of freedom, and those with the greatest empathy have also reached Florian. He finds the game in England interesting because it thrives on pace and dynamism. Arne Slot presented him philosophy, the team tactics in possession and pressing, and how Florian can develop his strengths in it. That made a decisive impression on Florian. The training conditions in Liverpool were also totally impressive. Plus, Florian is now at a good age to move abroad. Once you have a family, you're no longer as independent. Vincent Kompany also had good thoughts and ideas about him and how he wanted to integrate him into the Bayern Munich team. In the end, it was the nuances that ultimately influenced the decision, which had to do with different sporting situations and the role for Florian. Financially, there was no major differences between the two clubs anyway. Once again, Bayern really tried hard, but a decision had to be made. And that decision was ultimately Liverpool Football Club. And we're all very grateful and looking forward to seeing Florian in a Liverpool shirt. Oh, we've gone past the 333. Thank you, guys. Honestly, to be sitting here now at 1/3 of a million, I am eternally grateful to you all. And thank you, sincerely. Never thought our community would get to this point, but really happy that we got to celebrate this moment tonight together, and to hit it on the stream. So again, sincerely, from all of us, thank you so much for your continued support. Hey, thank you, Mark, for the screenshot as well. Honestly, wow. Thank you. Thank you all so much. Right, Brendan said, do you think Diaz will stay? I don't, mate, and I'm going to try to explain as best as I can why. So, whatever we think as fans now about maybe the offer from Bayern or Barcelona coming back in, or Al Nassr or whoever, I think the really clear part in this, to me, is that Liverpool are allowing Luis Diaz to have these conversations and allowing him to speak to Bayern, allowing him to speak to Barca. And that surely tells us something. So I know that the company line from Liverpool has been not for sale, not for sale. But it does feel like there's a number. And yes, the club would probably have a preference of where they'd like Diaz to go. But ultimately, the decision will rest with the player about where he wants to go and pursue the rest of his career if he leaves Liverpool. My best guess is he'll leave. And I think Liverpool are probably looking to line up that replacement now. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. I don't know if people agree or disagree with that one. So, are you happy with Ekitike looking like he's signing? 87% said yes, and thank you so much again to everyone that took part in the poll. Yorkshire T said 500,000 is the next target. I don't know, lads. I don't know. Like, if we got to 500,000 quick, we're then within sight of becoming the most subscribed to and catching Redmen in that regard. So I don't know. I'm just really grateful for where we are, and I hope we continue to grow our community and have a bit of fun together over the next few years. Love your show, rocking the Newcastle kit. I did put this on intentionally to try and ease the hostility, shall we say. But yeah, appreciate that, man. Thank you. Right, what's the next poll you want? What's the next thing you guys would like to vote on? Do let me know, because I want you guys to steer the conversation, of course. I've so much news to get through, but I'm playing catch up with the chat, so I don't want to miss super chats and annoy people who spent their hard-earned money. Oliver said, in my opinion, we need to keep Darwin with the current situ. In my opinion, I disagree, but I respect your opinion and anybody else's opinion. I just don't see a world where it works. I just don't, mate. He's still a Liverpool player for now, and while he's a Liverpool player, you know, he should be given the same opportunities everybody else, train properly, you know, getting ready for the new season, wherever it might be. But I just get a feeling before the lads jet off, this might be sorted out one way or the other. I think the Saudi transfer window's opened up, and I just get a feeling, it's just based off intuition, that I think Darwin's move will be sorted or very close to being sorted before we head off on the tour. That's my guess. Defender options. Cool. No probs. Let's go with some defender options in the poll then. See, I think if we're to do a poll on defenders, right, I think we have to do it from the perspective of what happens with Canade. Because I think if I said to you now, Canade goes, I think you're probably going to say, right, well, then we need to go and get somebody more experienced. But if I said to you Canade was staying, then we'll probably look at a younger centre-back. So it's a tough poll to go with. So let's go with Let's go with Canade still being here for the season, because there is a world where even if he doesn't sign an agreement, maybe the club refused to sell. So let's go with that one. So if Canade is still here, who do we sign? Right, so let's give us some options. Haddo. What's the young kid's name from Parma? Apologies, I've forgotten his name, but I'm sure one of you guys will help me out in the chat. So there's Haddo, there's Leone. Thank you, mate. Appreciate you. Thank you. Right, so I've got Haddo, Leone. I guess we can still stick Mark Gay as an option because, you know, he's not exactly old, is he, at 24? So I need one more. Branthwaite signed a new contract, mate, with Everton. So that's not going to happen. He signed a new contract with them. Diamande or Lukeba? Lukeba. Let's try Lukeba. Because at least I've seen links to Lukeba. I've not really seen much to Diamande. Right. Lukeba. Cool. So we'll try these four anyway and see how you guys get on. So if Canade is still here, who do we sign? Haddo, Leone, Gay, Lukeba. This one. Super excited for Ekitike and for the season, said Pontus. Thank you, mate. I think we can still sign Rodrigo. And thoughts on centre-backs? Yeah, look, I do think there's an opportunity to get Rodrigo. Again, the player himself will have to make a decision on whether he wants to leave Real Madrid or not. And then, of course, there will have to be a price set by Real Madrid. But Arsenal have moved away. I've seen that in the media earlier on. So, possibilities there. What I can't say to you is that I know for a fact Liverpool are going to move from or not. But even in a world where we get Ekitike and Darwin gets sold, whatever happens with Diaz, I still feel we're one forward short. Now, I'm not necessarily saying a centre forward, but I still feel we're an attacking player short. We've obviously lost Diogo. We may lose Darwin. So we bring in one centre forward to replace two. It doesn't really cut it for me. Even allowing for young Rio or Federico to get more minutes, I still feel we could do with another attacker, whether that's a wide player or a versatile player. This one. Aaron said, Craig, much love as always. Not fond of Hugo, not Champions League proven. Bundesliga is inconsistent. Look at Fulkrug and others, but he's young, and if he scores bags, I'll shut my mouth, and we need a centre-back like Bastoni. So, you're not on your own for being uncertain about Ekitike, but I certainly trust, mate, that the club will have run the numbers and looked into all the data around Hugo Ekitike. The Bundesliga is classed as one of the big leagues. Certainly, I would feel more comfortable seeing a player bagging in the Bundesliga than in the likes of the Portuguese division. So, the progression of the player since he's moved, obviously the PSG thing didn't work out for him. Then he moved to Frankfurt, and he's done really well there. And even after they lost Omar Marmoush, he still stepped up and did well. But he isn't the finished article, and I do have reservations about the price tag. But ultimately, I've always said I'll support whoever the manager wants, and if the manager wants Hugo Ekitike, I'll be right behind him. Carl said, tough question. If Gomez score, will he score this season? Yes, he will. I'm still going to live off the fact that I think he scores from a fullback position. But yeah, I do think we'll get that goal. He got close last year. There was a couple of decent chances he had that might have gotten him that goal. But yeah, I got to believe, Carl. Got to believe he gets the goal. Is that true? Is it really Sweden 2, England 0 in the ladies' Euros? Interesting. Right, Ryan. So I heard Liverpool have been admirers of Ekitike since 21-22. Once a target, always a target. Oh, definitely. Look, many top clubs, Ryan, Newcastle, Liverpool, Arsenal, will have all been keeping tabs on Hugo Ekitike. And this is where I do have some sympathy with Newcastle fans, because they've long looked at Hugo Ekitike. Like, he's been a target of theirs openly for quite a while. So I understand the frustration. I remember, I think there was even something back in 22-23 where their chairman said he'd like to bring in Ekitike and have him and Isak there. So I do understand their frustrations because they've been long admirers of him. But at the same time, I also understand that if you were pitched these two projects, as good a project as Newcastle is, with a good fan base and Champions League football, it's different calibre than coming to Liverpool where you are challenging straight away for the biggest trophies. So yeah, it's just one of them things, unfortunately, for Newcastle fans. Jamie said, "Hey Craig, hope you're well. I'm back in Hugo 110%. Who would you prefer at left wing, Rodrigo or Gordon?" Rodrigo. Look, I like the idea of Anthony Gordon. And again, like I've said, I think he'd do better than a lot of people give him credit for. But Rodrigo would be a better fit, I think, overall, because we still have Cody, and Rodrigo's versatility is something that I don't think Anthony Gordon would have. Rodrigo can play right across the front line for me. So I would go with Rodrigo, especially if you're talking similar price tags. The upside of Anthony Gordon, of course, would be the homegrown aspect of it. But yeah, I think Rodrigo, because remember, this was supposed to be the window where we sign players for the here and now. And the wealth of experience at the very, very, very top level that Rodrigo has at 25 is pretty impressive. Zach Jorgensen, how are we, Zach? Said, all the Reds buzzing on a summer's day. Ekitike's coming. He's just turned away. From that Geordie circus, no one wants to play. He said, I'm not for tune. I want Anfield's way. Liverpool dreaming. Ekitike's on his way. And I didn't butcher it for you, Zach. I'm proud of us, Zach. We did it. Well played, sir. And thank you, my man. Jay Cliff said, Craig, to be honest, can't see us getting Rodrigo without Canade going the other way. Madrid are in panic mode since Club World Cup knockout. Xavi likes and wants Canade, would get a deal done and end all contract issues. Well, I received a really cool email from a gentleman called Ian. And if you're watching, Ian, I hope you're well. Who laid out a vision to me about why he thinks the time frame is the way it is. And in all honesty, it makes a lot of sense. And it kind of leans into what you said there, my friend, that maybe Liverpool are going to try to use Canade as a make-weight in the deal. I don't know, because I think Liverpool obviously still want to keep Canade, but if it has been communicated to the club that he wants to leave, and like you've said, Alonso and Real Madrid feel like they need defensive improvements now, maybe. Certainly not out of the realms of possibility, is it? Callum said, if you could feel the whole team of one of our players, who would it be? Oh my God, what a question, bro. What a question. A whole team of one of our players. See, I'm trying to take everything into account, right? I'm trying to take aerial ability. I'm trying to take the ability to score, create a pass, break lines. Probably going to still say Virgil. I'm probably going to say Virgil because he can hit a free kick. He's good aerially. He's no slouch with the pace. We've seen him score for Celtic in the past as well. I'd probably say Van Dijk. Van Dijk, Maka, probably my two answers. Salah, defensively, you probably wouldn't want him playing left back, right back, or centre back, would you? But it's got to be Van Dijk because of the height factor as well, I'd say. Really interesting question, though, my man. Thank you. Andrew said, watched Ekitike's highlights, some stunning goals. Yeah, same, mate. I watched there was a good 9-minute, I think it was even maybe posted by Frankfurt or something. It was just in our Discord group, so I clicked on it and watched it. And yeah, some good goals in there, some good movement, some fancy touches. But he still looks a bit gangly, doesn't he? He looks a little bit, not awkward, but you can tell he hasn't fully developed yet. And that's okay. You know, at this age, that's what you'd expect. Right, so we did ask you, and it's still open to vote if you haven't had a chance yet. If Canade's still here, who do we sign? Jarell Haddo, Leone, Gay, or Lukeba? And again, keep voting away. Right, let's get back into the chat. Craig, what would Gordon cost and what would Rodrygo cost, said Joe Di Vigiani. So I'm going to say 70 to 75 million pound for Anthony Gordon. And I'd say I'd say they're not a million miles apart. You know, Newcastle would ask for a hefty fee if indeed they were open to selling him. So yeah, I'd say you're not looking a million miles away in the valuations, and that's again why I'd lean towards Rodrygo, because I think he'd give us something a little bit different. I do admire and like Anthony Gordon's pace, but I'd edge to Rodrygo if it was my decision. Ivan, how are we, you big legend? Lovely to see you in, bro. Always appreciate you. How we feeling today, Ivan? Are you like me, walking around a little bit of a swagger, a little bit of a pep in the step because the Ekitike move's developing quickly? We do love a bit of Reds Champions transfer business this summer. Right, what else we got? Sorry, where are we? That one. With Hugo's addition, Dan's and Kumas are now for sale. No, Dan's isn't for sale. Dan's is still in development, and he's going to go on the preseason tour with the team. So no, not for sale, but maybe available as a loan depending on how preseason goes. I'm not sure what's up with Kumas, to be honest with you. Yeah, I'd be a liar, mate, if I told you I know what the plan is for Lewis Kumas. Eddie, how are we, sir? When do you think the deal gets done? It's a good question. I do feel quickly. Because the first official approach has apparently been turned down. It was similar to the one Newcastle put on the table, I think. So I think if Liverpool get to I think you'll see a deal done at about, my best guess, about 85 to 90 million euro would be my guess. I know Frankfurt want the 100 million euro, but I think we'll get to see something done about 90. When that happens, well, Romano on that thing quite quickly. I mean, one of his posts said, let me just read this out to you. The deal for Hugo Ekitike could be done at any moment because we know Liverpool love to be fast and they're accelerating. So, yeah, that's all we know at the minute. And we also know that there's an agreement on a 6-year deal. We know that even his wages have been spoken about as being about £200,000 per week. So, yeah, it looks like once you agree that deal then with Frankfurt, medical shouldn't be too far away. And Nasir said, Craig, do you think Ben Doak will stay? No, I don't, Nasir. I think he's likely going to be sold. And I think this summer, the likes of Crystal Palace, Nottingham Forest, worth keeping an eye on for him. Obviously, Forest have lost Elanga. Crystal Palace have lost Elise. They may lose Eze. Both have been credited with interest in Ben Doak. So I think if somebody puts 25 or 30 million pound on the table, Ben Doak will move on. Callum said, would you keep Darwin as a backup to Hugo? No. This I know people don't want to hear what I'm saying on it, but he's going to leave the club this summer. Unless something happens where Liverpool don't get the money, which I don't think will be the case because there's been lots of credited interest from Saudi. Now, I don't know what Darwin's stance is on the idea of going to play in the Saudi Pro League. I really don't know. But no, I just don't think there's any chance he stays, mate. Would I keep him though as a backup? I mean, look, I can understand the thought process behind it. I just don't think he's going to come good. But like I said, I never really want to give out to somebody who wants to support a player who's at the club. S4T said, I'm always fine when you bring up Gordon. The only time you make me cringe is when you say it like Slovenian Darwin. Sorry, we'll agree to disagree on that one. I just think with Šeško, there is a talent there, you know, and he's really young still. And if Newcastle get Benjamin Šeško, I think they're going to get a good player. You know, they're credited as having interest in him, and If Arsenal had got him, I'd have said the same thing. Oh my days, 2-2. Fair play, England, pulling that one back. Fair play. Interesting stuff. Fair play. Right. Let's keep going. This one. Is there still a possibility we get Isak? I don't believe so, mate. But who knows? Yeah, because obviously we know Newcastle, they had two main targets in the striker position this summer. João Pedro and Hugo Ekitike. And João Pedro obviously has moved to Chelsea. And Hugo Ekitike, they've backed away from because they knew that if we didn't get Isak, that's where we were going. So I can't see a world where they then suddenly turn around and sell Isak. I think if they were ever going to consider to sell Isak this summer, it would have been with Liverpool's interest right now. Still need to sign Gay and strengthen our defence. What's a higher priority, going for Rodrygo or attack, or Gay for a defence? I think, again, I would agree with you that defence is the priority for me, but I just don't know if Liverpool know what's happening with Canade. And I feel that that's what's putting a pause on the recruitment as a centre-back. You know, because the plan was to sell Kwanzaa and replace him with a young centre-back. But the plan may change if Canade wants to leave the club. So I think that's why we're seeing this pause. Obviously that and the tragic passing of Diogo and his brother Andre, but that's all I can think of, mate. You know, the club certainly know we need them. And we know that the club are very proactive this summer, so there has to be a reason for it. Right, we are heading towards the 3,000 votes. We're about 400 short. If Canade is still here, who do we sign? Jarell Haddo, Leone, Gay, or Lukeba? I'm actually surprised at the way this vote is going. I'm surprised by it, but in a good way. Right, let's keep going. Phineas, you're not certain somebody's brother, are you? Certain superstar, singing sensations brother. Do you see a world where we go back for Isak in a year, having also signed Ekitike this summer? You're a legend, by the way. Thank you, Phineas. My gut feeling is that it's a now or never for Ekitike, or excuse me, for Isak with us. But that doesn't mean Newcastle may not consider selling him next year. I think a lot could depend on what happens in Newcastle's season. So if Newcastle qualify for the Champions League again and are progressing, maybe Isak says, right, give me that new contract and I'm going to extend. So yeah, I think for us, I wouldn't expect us to go back in. I feel like it'd be amazing, but I don't expect it. Oh, by the way, I just seen 50 memberships gifted as well by S4T. Thank you, mate. Appreciate that. And I'm sure the people that have been on the receiving end of those very generous 50 memberships, mate, would be hugely appreciative as well. Silent Streams, how are we, my friend? Said, cheers from the US, Craig. Thanks for taking my question yesterday. Coming to Anfield this season, my first time. Big match or smaller match? Oh, difficult one, because with the smaller match, you're thinking I might see a bag load of goals. With the big match, you get that big match buzz. So here's what I'd say to you. If I could give anybody going to Anfield a bit of advice for their first game, I would say try to take in a night game. For me, there's something special. When you walk up the steps at Anfield, you see the floodlights meet your eye, and then you keep walking, and then the pitch hits your eye, and there's a cold, crisp, winter's evening, and the lights are on. It just, to me, it creates the best atmospheres, and the special nights are under the lights. So I'd say go to a night game, a European game if at all possible. I'm going to the Manchester United game this season in October. Really excited by it. It's been on my bucket list as a Liverpool fan my entire life. But yeah, I'd say a night game would be what I would say. For me, I love it. I love the vibe in and around Anfield at that time. I love the lights. I think football is better under the floodlights. Avish, thank you, my friend. Appreciate you. Jaden Walker said, missing out on Bellingham is a blessing in disguise because Wirtz is a lot better. So, obviously, if I say now Bellingham, it's a blessing in disguise. People can jump all over that. But sincerely, I agree. I would have loved Jude Bellingham. Everybody knew that. I made it pretty clear. But I'd also be a liar if I've said that I've been impressed with his attitude in Madrid. I haven't. He looks like he's bought into that moaning, entitled Madrid vibe. And I'm happy with how it's ended up for us. Would you take Rashford at 45 million? No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't take Marcus Rashford full stop, because I don't think he's got the right headspace or head strength or mentality. No, I don't. I just wouldn't. I always have admiration for Marcus, for what he did for young, hungry kids in England and the work he put in there. But his footballing side it's just never really lived up to the promise. And yeah, I'd say no. If I'm him, I'm moving out of England. That's what I'd be doing. I'd be looking to go to Spain or Italy or somewhere to rebuild, away from the media spotlight of England. No one will be as good as Jota, best finisher, said Tony. He's pretty damn good, mate. No denying that. Very polished in and around the penalty area was Diogo. Would you rather Szoboszlai, central attacking midfielder, Wirtz on the left, Ekitike, Salah, or Wirtz, central attacking midfield, Gakpo, Ekitike, Salah? So Wirtz as the attacking midfield. So I would go Ekitike, Salah, Wirtz. I was looking at something earlier on from the newspaper, who I'm not going to name ever again because they refuse to acknowledge our existence. And they had a predicted 11 for the new season for Liverpool from one of their journalists. And I use the term very fucking loosely because the journalist didn't know that Gravenberch was suspended for the first game of the season, which they were putting out their dream team for. And they had Rodrygo in it. And I just wonder, do they know something we don't know? Or are they just excitable fans like the rest of us? But either way, it was interesting. And imagine that. Imagine Rodrygo, Ekitike, Salah with Wirtz in behind. Oh. Or even Cody Gakpo. Either way, we can't forget about Cody in this, because Cody's come on a good bit as well since he joined. And also, let's not forget, we've saved money by not having to spend the 120, 130 or whatever it may have taken if Newcastle had been open to selling Isak. So, there should be more wiggle room maybe as well now. John, thank you, my man. Appreciate you. Fernando said, no one's bigger than the club. If Diaz and Canade don't want to be here, sell them. See, mate, I agree. And I'll always say, if a player doesn't want to be at the club, sell them. But obviously it has to work for us as well. Liverpool can't be left short. And that's why I think we're almost being a bit more transparent about who we're allowing to talk to players or to other clubs and stuff. And for Diaz, I don't think there's any shortage of decent players we could replace him with. You suit wearing black. I hope we get Rodrygo. Thank you. I normally don't wear black because with my camera, it makes my skin tone really, really, really white. Same if I wear a white hoodie, it makes my skin tone really, really, really dark for some reason. But I bought this today because I needed a few new Adidas t-shirts. So I said, why not? Give it a try. And it's quite comfortable. So thank you. And obviously as a chunky butt, black makes you feel a little bit more slim. Right, I need to run through some news if that's okay, because I've a lot I want to run through, and I have a few super chats I haven't gotten to yet, but don't worry, I promise you I will get to them. Starting with Avish, you're the first one back up, mate. Bear with me 1 second though. So I want to run through the news today and exactly what we have and where we have it. So we started out by Mundo Deportivo saying that, well, they're actually quoting Bild to say the Vincent Company has held a video call with Luis Diaz, And Barcelona have been left worried by this because apparently Barca still haven't given up on Diaz, but yet nobody's willing to put the money that Liverpool would take yet on the table, or at least that would even get Liverpool to stop just saying no. John Duran. Should we talk about John Duran for a minute? Because I read a piece earlier on that said former Aston Villa striker John Duran has fallen out with Jose Mourinho already, just weeks after signing for Fenerbahce, after failing to turn up for the start of pre-season training. That's not great, is it? That's not a great start to a club that helped you get away from an environment that you didn't feel comfortable in and gave you another opportunity in European football. Not a great start there for John Duran. Right, then we had Romano saying, breaking, Liverpool advancing for Hugo Ekitike. Liverpool are working with Eintracht Frankfurt and Hugo's camp discussing the final terms in order to reach an agreement. The deal will be closed only if Newcastle will close the door definitely on Isak. Then we had Ian Doyle saying Liverpool have opened talks to sign Ekitike. Discussions have taken place between Liverpool and Frankfurt during the last 48 hours. Expectation a bid will follow. Florian Plettenberg then said Eintracht Frankfurt feeling is Hugo Ekitike wants Liverpool. New talks taking place today. Next up was Andy Hunter of The Guardian, who said Liverpool are poised to make a bid for Hugo Ekitike, with the Eintracht Frankfurt striker understood to favour a move to the Premier League champions over Newcastle. Then we had Fabrizio Romano back in to say Newcastle have now already left talks for Hugo Ekitike, deal considered off at this stage. Hugo Ekitike and Liverpool reached an agreement over a 6-year contract, said Fabrice Hawkins. The player only wants Liverpool. In the last 24 hours, he's rejected United and Newcastle. Breaking, Newcastle are exploring a deal to sign Brentford striker Johan Wissa, writes David Ornstein, after cooling their interest in Hugo Ekitike. I love how polite they're being to Newcastle, the journalists. I'll translate that for you. Newcastle have run off with their tail between their legs after Liverpool showed them who the big boys were in the transfer market and followed through on their warning that if Isak wasn't for sale, they'd be buying Ekitike. Fixed it for you. Right, next up, Romano said Liverpool have submitted an official bid to Eintracht Frankfurt for Hugo Ekitike. Eintracht already informed Liverpool that they want more. Proposal rejected, but it was an initial contact as talks continue. Then we had David Ornstein coming back in saying Liverpool advancing in talks with Eintracht Frankfurt over the deal for Hugo Ekitike. The club's proposed package to sign the striker is in excess of €80 million and personal terms are not expected to be an issue. Chris Bascom then said Liverpool closing in on a deal for Eintracht Frankfurt's Hugo Ekitike. A bid is in the process of being formalised with talks advancing for the 23-year-old who's now expected to join the Premier League champions. Then this is one from Alex Crook, which you're not going to like what I'm about to read out here, and nor are you Newcastle fans. Liverpool also retain interest in Anthony Gordon if Luis Diaz were to leave, reports Alex Crook. Have we hit 3,000 on the poll? We have. So you guys, 71% of you guys that voted said, even if we do keep Canade, you would still like to sign Mark Gay. And thank you to everyone that took part in the poll. This also from Alex Crook, and you can find this on the Anfield Agenda Twitter account or X account. If Ibrahima Canade has been stalling on signing a contract he sends at Liverpool, it's because he's unhappy with the salary on offer. The club are known to drive a hard bargain, so it's likely Canade will have to lower his demands if he is to extend. Jadon Danns is set to travel with Liverpool in the pre-season tour of Asia, reports Jack Lusby. Then we had the report from Bill that Darwin Núñez is a striker option for Newcastle. Alex Crook came back in to say preliminary talks between Liverpool and Real Madrid over Rodrygo are believed to have taken place. Then we have 3 questions that I want to get your answer. Well, I'll let you think on these, right? There are 3 potential rule changes in football that are under development and under discussion right now. The first of these is, should penalty rebounds be scrapped? Should it be a case that if a penalty is saved or missed, that's it? It restarts with a goal kick or an indirect free kick. So that's one proposal. The next one is, should VAR be allowed to check second yellow cards? I think yes, for the VAR one. For the penalty one, I have a different opinion to a lot of people. I come from a goalkeeper's perspective, where it feels like a massive kick in the nuts if you save a penalty and then somebody runs up and scores the rebound. So I'd like a halfway house answer where perhaps the player who takes the penalty couldn't score the rebound. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just looking at that from a goalkeeper's perspective. And the final one was, should VAR be allowed to check contentious corners leading to a goal? So how many times have we seen where there's a goal scored from a corner that maybe shouldn't have been given? So they want to know, should VAR be allowed to check contentious corners leading to a goal? Nathan said, I only love you, Craig. I'm so sorry to my fiance. She won't mind. She'll understand, mate. You know, it's understandable. Right, so Spanish publication AS expect Liverpool to sign a defender, and they go on to name Joel Haddo. They also say, though, that Chelsea are interested. We know that Joel Haddo is a good friend of Ryan Gravenberch. So this gentleman, I believe, is he a journalist? Seb SB, so Seb Stafford Bloor, said Hugo Ekitike is a wonderful player to watch. No doubt all of his many abilities are still being refined and will need developing over coming season, but his progress in Germany has been quick and impressive. His mind for the game will surprise people. I think goals matter, of course, but he has craft that many forwards don't possess. Frankfurt very rarely come up against low blocks in the Bundesliga, and they've typically found them challenging to cope with. See the second leg of the Europa League game versus Spurs. That will take some time for a player most comfortable in transition, which sounds like a pretty good summary of what we're getting and maybe what needs to be worked on. Then we had Romano again saying Richard Hughes always had this clear plan. Let's try for Isak, but if he's not available, Ekitike is not a second choice. He's a player that they've wanted since the beginning of the window. Obviously, if you can't get a dream like Isak, why wouldn't you try? Romano then said one to consider is the centre-back position. As we know, Liverpool tried for Dean Huijsen before he joined Real Madrid, and they were interested in Mark Gay. I think Mark Gay is still one to keep an eye on this summer because he won't be renewing his contract at Crystal Palace. We mentioned this to you guys the other day, but West Ham Central now reporting West Ham are said to be trying to move for Harvey Elliott in the next few days. The club have been in talks all week, and there is a hope a deal could be achieved. Respectfully, I think Harvey Elliott can do better this summer than West Ham. I just don't think West Ham are a club at the right part of their development for Harvey Elliott to go into now. I think if you're talking about Newcastle, Villa, Brighton, Bundesliga clubs being interested in Harvey, I would say that the likes of a Newcastle, a Brighton would be better moves than West Ham, personally. Should Hugo Ekitike sign for Liverpool? He's expected to agree a 6-year contract earning between 12 and 13 million euro gross annually. An agreement between Liverpool and Frankfurt has yet to be finalised, writes Abdallah Bulma. Moby Hake has just reiterated what I mentioned earlier on. PSG will bank 20% of Hugo Ekitike's fee with their sell-on clause. ESPN Brazil then write, Liverpool have now fully entered the race for Rodrygo. They want to sign him. Fabrizio Romano said, for Darwin, I would keep an eye on Saudi clubs. There's still a possibility he could leave this summer, especially now that Ekitike is close to joining Liverpool. Then we had the Newcastle fans who were again being salty and said this game should be a frosty atmosphere now when they play Liverpool in the second game of the season. It feels like they're trying to do a Manchester City all over again here and create a rivalry that only exists in their head. That's the way I feel about this. I get it. You aspire to be a big club and you want to create these rivalries. And they're usually really good games. And Newcastle are very, very difficult to play at St. James's Park. But, you know, the rivalry was only there because we wanted Isak. And now we've moved on. You can drop the nonsense. Right, as I promised, I'd get back to these super chats. When does Fantasy League start? Oh, mate, I don't know. I'm one of these people that always just sees somebody else share it and then jumps into it. So I'm sure there'll be somebody in the chat who can give you an exact on that one. What's the latest on Rodrygo? Well, Joe, a couple of reports to say we're interested and really interested. I don't know, mate, if we are or aren't. I'd love us to be, though. Craig Hawkins said, hey, Craig, Listening in Portugal, I've been working out here. Great show again. Well, you could be a lot worse places to work, mate. Great country, Portugal. Lovely people. Nice food as well. You always say your community gets their backs up when you mention Gordon. For me, I don't mind the idea of him at all. You only make me cringe when you say the Slovenian Darwin. I think I've done that one already, actually. Golden Husky said, wait until the Spanish club brainwashes Isak to run his contract down and get him for free. Newcastle fans will come crying, begging us to submit a €5 million bid. It might happen. I don't know. Like, Real Madrid are already credited with somewhat of an interest in Isak, but for what it's worth, I don't understand this mindset of feeling like Liverpool were trying to bully Newcastle. It was an inquiry that was rebuffed and we moved on. It all seems overblown in my mind. Yeah, you don't want a club taking your best players. Of course you don't. But we haven't. You said no and we moved on. Let's start the 500,000 sub goal. Oh, mate. Not yet. Let's get 350 first. And then maybe we can push on. Isak for Liverpool is now or never, said Naturalist. Rodrigo and Ekitike would be dreamland, said Paul Beer. I don't know enough about it. Like, should I be excited about Ekitike, lads? I don't know enough about him. As I said, watching highlight reels of any player can make them look amazing, but I just really don't know. Hang on. It definitely feels like a bit underwhelming compared to the likes of Isak. But I definitely had concerns with Isak as well because of the potential for him missing some games and the sheer amount of money. But this one feels like there's still a risk, but in a different way. Carl said, how do you rate this transfer window so far? Faultless, mate. Honestly, faultless so far. You know, it's not the club's fault we couldn't get Isak. You know, he just wasn't available. You know, I want the centre back brought in, but I don't have any complaints, mate. So 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, you know, something pretty high anyway. But I don't want to give a grade till it's over. Which Premier League teams do you think Palmer would not start for? Not many. Not many, to be honest. Like, I think he's overhyped somewhat, but he's still a really good player. Um, I think you can make an argument from the start in any of them. You know, yeah, you could make an argument. It depends how much you rate him. I don't rate him as highly as some others. So, you know, I'd probably say after this transfer window, does he get in our team? Maybe not. But if he continues and progresses to become the player he's capable of being, you know, probably no team he wouldn't get into because he is a good player. Craig, would you keep Canade for a year and bring in a young centre back if you could get Gay on a free next year? It's a really good question, mate. Yeah, I think I would. Ideally, I'd prefer it the other way around. I'd prefer to sell Canade if he definitely wants to go and buy Gay. But in your scenario, yeah, I wouldn't mind. I still think I'd prefer not having somebody who doesn't want to be here at the club for a few different reasons. But ultimately, if it meant we still had a good centre back like Ibu for a year and then got in another good centre back like Mark Gay, yes. But I just can't see a world where Palace will let him leave for free. It would be madness. I know they will ask for top money now, but they can't let him go for nothing. So weird that we don't talk about need for a CDM because we don't know if we have one. And we have talked about it. We've talked about it quite a bit, mate. But I just think the honest answer is until we know what's happening with Bajcetic and until we know where Arna rates McConnell, we don't know if we have a need to bring one in or not. If Stefan Bajcetic doesn't get this preseason under his belt and impress the manager, wouldn't be surprised to see us dip in there to try and bring somebody in. So I just don't think it's a pressing need just yet. It might be one of those last minute things if something happens. Tobias, I think there's a possibility of us progressing with Ekitike on personal terms is a tactic to force Isak to take action to get a move away from Newcastle. I don't know, Tobias. It's a tough one because there was definitely some encouragement coming, or Liverpool wouldn't have made the inquiry. Yeah, I mean, I can see where you're coming from, but I don't think I could give you a definitive answer either way because, if we sign Ekitike, we sign Ekitike, and if we don't sign Ekitike and we waste our time flirting with him or negotiating with him or Frankfurt, it just makes us look like shithouses as well, and not in a good way. Zohim said, Craig, after Ekitike, how many more signings? So I would say 2 without selling anybody. If we sell somebody like Diaz, 3. So for me, we need another attacker after Ekitike. Don't know whether it's central or wide, but we need one more. And we need a defender. If Kanade goes and Diaz goes, then you need to replace both of them as well. But I think bring in Ekitike, get us another versatile forward, bring in a centre back, and then it's like for like after that. That's the way I think about it anyway. And thank you. Avish said, what kit number is Wirtz, Frimpong and Kirkes? They haven't been announced yet. They've been given preliminary ones for pre-season. But again, like we've always felt with the Adidas deal kicking in on the 1st of August, it always felt like the club were holding off there. And once Adidas is live, the club will release the shirt numbers and hope for a big boost in sales to make up for, the month we'd be behind now. We've already had the shirts on sale and stuff if the deal with Nike hadn't been kicked on the extra month because I think it was the COVID season that caused it. Call that publication They Who Shall Not Be Named. Yeah, I watched one too many Harry Potter movies. They're, yeah. I don't want to say that because I don't want to be getting in trouble. Wirtz was wearing 22 in training. Yes, we've seen that. But that's Calvin Ramsey's number. I think, look, a lot might depend on Diaz as well, let's say. I'd love Wirtz to take the 7. If Diaz moved on, Wirtz or Rodrigo in the 7 would be delicious. I'd guess Frimpong might take 30. 27 was another number I think that was linked with Florian Wirtz, but what we have now are just placeholders, and the 22 was the one that's Calvin Ramsey's squad number. This one. Aryan, how are we, dude? Aryan Grival said, can we acknowledge the genius of Edwards and Hughes? Yes, sir. More than happy to. They've played a blinder in this window, mate. They really, really have. So, yeah. Ian said, I still don't believe the Isak transfer is dead. Well, let's ask. Let's ask people if they think it's dead or not. So, is the Isak deal really over? So, is the Isak deal really over? Have your say, yay or nay. And by the way, if you say yes, you could mean for next summer either, but just want to know if you think it's really done and dusted. Nick said, what is the authenticity of Isak joining Newcastle as well as Ekitike? Apologies if you've already covered this. So Newcastle wanted to sign both of them, and the company line was always that Newcastle wanted to have both of them in the squad. But even the journalists, Nick, were very dubious of this. And whenever it was spoken about on any platform that I've looked at and journalists were discussing it, they all kind of raised their eyebrow a little bit at how likely that possibility really was. Whether you could keep both happy, whether stylistically you'd be able to play with both. So there was some people who thought it was a far-fetched idea. That's all I can say. Because the only people who can really answer that, I guess, are Eddie Howe and Newcastle. Avish said, with Trent gone, who would be our free kick taker? I like the idea of Maka stepping up for free kicks. So yeah, I'm going to go with Maka personally, but I'm sure others will have some decent options. Maka, yeah, I'm going to say Maka. But interested to see what others might think in the chat as well. You've got Maka, you've got Szoboszlai. From a left-footed side, I don't know if Kirkes has ever hit one. Wirtz is another good shout as well. Yeah, there's options, but I guess we'll get to find out who's going to be taking them soon. So there's a mixture of Wirtz, Maka, VVD, Szoboszlai in the chat. This one. Was Liverpool's Premier League win in 2020 better than 2025? They're both wins. You know, I certainly enjoyed this one more because we got to celebrate it and you got to see the players and the coaches and the fans all come together to celebrate it. So I would say I preferred this one, but getting the first one over the line in 30 years was an incredible achievement as well. Matt said, hey Craig, personally I'm happy with Hugo, but would love to hear your thoughts. Also, can I ask the latest on Rodrigo? Love to you and your family. So there's loads of reports, Matt, today that suggest Liverpool are really in for Rodrigo. ESPN Brazil said Liverpool have fully entered the race. I'm dubious somewhat on this one, to be honest with you, but I think it will still come down to what happens with Diaz before Liverpool will look to commit any money. And on Ekitike, same answer. Unfortunately, I've given all the way through the window. Is I don't know. I don't know if Ekitike is going to be a masterstroke or a headache. I haven't got a clue. I haven't seen enough of him playing to really know. But again, I do trust the judgment of slotting the recruitment team. Schmungus. So I keep reminding myself that this is just the start. We had a few bumps last season, but the new lads are definitely a wake-up call to some players. Oh, mate, look. When you win the league, you want to immediately go out there and strike fear into your opponents. And as a fan, we felt the last time we didn't do this. And the fear was that we might do it again. And this summer, straight from the off, we've been at it. And there's been a clear, concise plan that's been executed so far really well. And it really does feel like the start of the club trying to build for something really, really impressive and for a sustained success. But again, it's a very competitive league and loads of clubs are out there spending money, trying to do their thing. Arsenal will feel like they've strengthened. Chelsea will feel like they've strengthened. United will feel like they're about to spend £70 million on Mbeumo. How would you go out there and spend £132 million on Mbeumo and Cunha, lads? Like, I'll sit here and tell you Brian Mbeumo's a really good player. He's a very good player. But 70 million for a player that I don't think has even kicked the ball in a European competition. That's a slap in the face for all the people who lost their jobs because the club was piss poor. I just find it very grubby, the whole thing. But yeah, it is the start of the window and exciting start for us. Liverpool have to sign 2 centre forwards. I don't know if we'll sign 2 or if we'll sign 1 and a versatile forward or 1 and Jayden Danns as an option. Itachi said, I don't know how to feel about Ekitike since I really believed Isak will happen, but I trust their staff and Arna. Still a little sad about Isak. I never knew what way the Isak situation would play out. Whether Newcastle were open at a specific number or whether they were really going to dig their heels in. I can say this, I think, again now because it looks like the deal's over, but I really, really, in my heart of hearts, believe fully that Newcastle should have taken the money. I really just do. And I'm somewhat blinded by what happened with Coutinho and us, and how we spent that money and developed into a team that eventually started winning the league. So maybe that's kind of guided my thought process. But really, I feel that turning down upwards of £120 million for Isak is the wrong decision. Because it's mad money. Like, it is mad money for a player with some concerns around his injuries. It felt like we were going to overpay, but I would have happily done it to have brought him in. But I really just feel like they should have taken the money. Luke, hi Craig. I think Ekitike and Rodrigo is better spend of money than Isak, who could be another Jota. Great, but couldn't stay fit. Like both the younger side of 20. So for me personally, better. I totally can understand your thought process, Luke. It makes sense. If I was looking at it from the point of view of working with a constrained budget, I'd probably agree. But this summer, budget seems to be out the window, you know? It seems to be just get the best. And Isak, in my opinion, would have been more fearsome lining up for us. But I will not be at all displeased, mate, if we end up with Rodrigo and Ekitike. That would be a very, very pleasant window indeed. So yeah, Newcastle now have to worry about PSR because they still need a striker. They need a centre-back. And I'm not sure what other positions Newcastle fans might feel they need strengthening in, but they're going to probably have to make one substantial sale in this summer window to give them that wiggle room. And we could have certainly done that, but again, it was their choice. And it was always going to be their choice because nobody can force the issue. I just think it was the wrong one from Newcastle. But again, I'm sure their fans feel it was absolutely the right one. Andrew said, hi Craig, Hugo scored 15 goals last season. Okay. Don't know what to say to that. For whatever we think, the club clearly back Ekitike to come good, so let's just hope he does. Hey Craig, what's your opinion about Ekitike? Has the worst XG to goals ratio among top 5 leagues in Europe. He's worse than Nunes in a weaker league. Again, I don't know enough about Ekitike, mate, to tell you whether this is us having our pants pulled down or whether it's a stroke of genius. I'm just entirely open to whatever happens here. I trust the club's judgment, and I'm sure Arne knows everything we know and more. And I'm sure he's looked at it and thought, I can mold this guy into being a superstar. So I trust their manager. What's this one? Oh yeah, so I want to give a shout out to Wolves here as well. Actually, I should have done this earlier, so apologies. Wolves have inducted Diogo Jota into their Hall of Fame. They said this is a tribute that honours both his remarkable achievements for the club and the profound impact his passing has had on the world of football. And again, class act, Wolves. And as all football fans that have reached out and shared their sentiments around the passing of Diogo and Andre, greatly appreciated by us Liverpool fans, and again, lovely to see that touch from Wolves as well. Evening Craig, bro and community, still think we have had a 9 out of 10 window. It's not over yet. I never like to judge the window until it's fully finished, but so far so good. We're moving in the direction of a striker. We certainly know we need a centre back. And then we'll keep an eye on what happens with the likes of Rodrigo, Anthony Gordon, Luis Diaz. I expect us to sell these players. Tyler Morton, Harvey Elliott. We've obviously sold Kelleher. We've sold Kwanzaa. Ben Doak. Luis Diaz, in my mind, goes. Darwin Núñez goes. I'm trying to think, is there any more fringe players maybe that might move on? I still think we're going to recoup another 200 million quid in this window, if not more. And Costas will probably go, or Andy Robertson. But I think Costas, but not based off inside information. Do we need homegrown players if Elliott, etc. leave? I find it tough to answer this question because I've got to address Diogo if I speak about this question, and I always find that very difficult. So let's just say for a second that we sell Darwin, we've lost Diogo, and let's say we sell Diaz. Well, that's 3 overseas places freed up. And if Ekitike is one of them, it gives us some more wiggle room. We brought in Frimpong, who is a homegrown player. Yes, if Elliott leaves and Kwanzaa leaving, does mean that there is spaces there to look at. But again, the club will know all of this. And there is no rule that says you have to have X amount of homegrown players. It just means if you want to have your full complement of 25-man Premier League squad, that 8 of those players have to be homegrown and 17 overseas. But we'll know. Yeah, the club will know about it. Thoughts on Gomez getting to take at least one penalty this season? I don't know, man. It depends on the circumstance, doesn't it? If we're 5-0 up and Salah's already scored a hat trick, maybe. But if it's 0-0 in the 94th minute of a game, no. But we all want him to get that goal. Sebastian Jan said, "What a window! Can't wait to see them play." And Ryan, I've finally gotten through all the super chats, so thank you. Ryan said, FSG 5-stage plan. 1, clear the club from debt. 2, build the exit. 3, stadium upgrade. 4, dominate with Klopp. 5, finally spend big in the window. Trust in FSG. Well, my thought process was, like I mentioned, that they sense an opportunity with Manchester City having a bit of a wobble. And I feel like they think now is the time to capitalise. Arna's coming in and proving himself. We've won the league. Club stock is at a really good point. Like you said, the infrastructure projects are all completed now. Any road end done, main stand done, AXA redone. So, yeah, maybe this is the master plan. But either way, good to see it finally happening. Right. Gomez needs to get himself up for the corners. He came close last year. I think we will get that Joe Gomez goal. And there will never be a more popular goal scorer, I think, than when Joe finally gets that goal. Because he and we've been waiting for a very long time. Do keep, by the way, if you can, hit that subscribe button for me and drop a like on the stream. Really do appreciate you all being in tonight. If you haven't joined our WhatsApp community, you know what to do. Scan that QR code there on the screen. And this is our last ever stage show taking place, the Hot Water Comedy Club, Liverpool, on Sunday, 19th of October. It's the weekend of the Manchester United game. It's an all-ages event and tickets are priced at just £15. If you want to come and see us for one last time, you know what to do. Scan that QR code. Matthew said, for the fans worried about Hugo's finishing, Darwin scored 17 goals from 57 big chances, 25 XG. Hugo scored 25 from 45, 23 XG. His overall XG is only that high because he creates for himself. And thank you for that one, Matthew. Look, I'd be a liar if I said I didn't have concerns about Ekitike because I don't know enough about him. So my fear comes from my own ignorance. But I'm willing to have a look because I had fears around Gravenberch and they were very quickly shown to be unfounded. Jaden said, Billy Hogan stole John's wallet. Well, good. I'm very happy that he did, my man. Owns Mark said, is having the number 20 somewhere on all jerseys a bit much in honour of Diogo? I don't know, mate. I don't know. Also, you'd have to consider the the run for Adidas to manufacture it. Now, if you're putting a badge on it or something, that's maybe a little bit different, but you have to think about how far in advance these kits would be being manufactured by the likes of Adidas and stuff, and I think it's way too short of a turnaround. But if it was a badge or something like that, an iron-on or something, perhaps. Did you say you trust? Didn't you say you trust management? I do now. Yes. Like again, I will sit here and say to you, I moaned about FSG relentlessly, but why did I moan about them? Because I didn't see them back in the managers, and I've always said that's all I've wanted, and I've always promised that when FSG start to do that, I won't moan about them. And I've always had faith in Edwards, because why wouldn't you? Look at what he's done. Hughes we didn't know about because he didn't do very much last year, but he's after, getting Florian Wirtz sorted out, Frimpong, Kirkes. How could I not be happy? If I came on here and said that I wasn't, I'd have an agenda at that point. I call it as I see it. Yeah. And right now, for me to say anything other than it's been a good window would be wrong. Can see doing a sneaky deal on deadline day. Would love it. I do love a bit of deadline day drama, but I don't know if we will have a late deal or not. Maybe it depends. It definitely feels like a lot of clubs are trying to get business done early this summer. A lot of deals drag on and on and on, but it does feel like clubs are trying to get out ahead of it this summer, because there's also a belief that managers want the players in as early as they can. And, the longer you get with them on the training pitch, I guess the less risky it is to implement them into a new team. Angie, how are we? Hey Craig, I've lost all respect for Newcastle fans, their behaviour and insults towards us. I'm happy with Ekitike, he's lots of potential. And Angie, sorry, I've been so saddened is probably the word I'd use, how little it took for them to lose their minds. Like, I did an intro to the stream the other day where I lifted my head up and I smirked, and I very much talked tongue-in-cheek about them should be thanking us for the rebuild and for the money, and it was so fucking clearly sarcastic, and yet they all lost their minds on social media, and the clip has had 6.1 million views, and I'm being rinsed left, right and centre as if I've slept with their wives. It's mental. I didn't realise they were so touchy. Like, I always thought that the Geordies had a good sense of humour and were up for a bit of banter, but my God, it's been a real eye-opener, Angie. A real eye-opener to a fan base that, as any viewer of this channel will know, I've only ever been highly respectful of, because I used to get along great with any of the Geordie fans that I knew. But wow, this window has been nuts to see them losing their fucking minds. It's crazy. Dragging on like 6 weeks, United and Bromo, and the price going up and up and up. What is it now? 70 million? United are going to be paying there for Mbomo. And look, I'm not going to say he's not a good player. He very much is. And I would have had him at Liverpool, like I said before, but 70 million feels a bit steep. Grim Reaper said, Craig, hot take, we'll use Dan's, providing he stays fit. Could take up Jones' role. He just feels like the clinical player that Diogo was. Might be just me thoughts. He's going to get his chance. He's going to get his chance in pre-season. He's going on the tour with the lads, and then it'll be up to Jayden to train well and keep fit, and I'm sure Arna will give him his chances. They win a trophy and think they're one of the big boys. And look, I don't belittle them for that. They won the trophy. They were better than us on the day and deserve to win the final. But honestly, the nonsense that they've spouted relentlessly about us trying to bully them, like, this is what happened. We knocked on the door. We asked, was Isak available? They said no. We moved on to another target. That's the gist of what happened. And they're crying like we tried to rob the family silver and weren't going to pay them an absolutely record-breaking fee that they'll never see again for the player. And they go on like we're trying to sleep with their wives. Like, honestly, it's fucking nuts. Like, that's what football is. We've had about 10 clubs knock on our door for players this summer that the club has said no to. And I'm not in Barcelona's chats calling them everything under the sun for trying to get Diaz or belittling them personally or talking about my Irishness, my baldness, my weight, all this other shit just over an inquiry for Isak that they always had the power to say no, just shown them up to be touchy is the respectful word I'd use, touchy. Why did Liverpool go for Julian Alvarez? You see, my friend, I think it's because he has no desire to come back to the UK, from what I understand. And also, I think there's a potential. I think there's a potential move to Barcelona in the offing for him in a year's time, if it doesn't work out for Atleti this year, because he wasn't happy, according to reports, with Atleti's season. But yeah, I'd love him, and I think Liverpool would have moved for him because there was a report that said we tried to get him last season when he was leaving Man City, but he just doesn't want to come back to the UK, from what I understand. Irishness, it's like an illness or something. It's just this typical xenophobic bollocks I have to deal with all the time. This guy isn't even Scouse. This guy doesn't go to every game, therefore this guy doesn't deserve an opinion. All it is just a way to try and belittle people to make them feel morally superior, because that's all they have in their pathetic, sad little lives is hate. And I really feel sympathy for people that are that way, because it must be tough getting up every day being that angry and feeling so insecure about yourself that the only joy you can get is to try to belittle other humans. I've lost a lot of respect. Dave said, Craig, I'd much rather have Ekitike than Rodrigo than Isak for a similar price. I think a few people would probably agree with you on that one, Dave. There's been a couple of shouts for that tonight in the chat as well. Right, so our last poll of the night was, is the Isak deal really over? 77% of 2,500 people that voted said yes. And thank you so much to everyone that voted as well. Remy said, Craig, you're an honorary Scouser. Well, whatever way you look at it, right? I don't need to justify my existence as a football fan to any other human being, nor do anybody else need to justify their support of a club to me. I just find the lazy argument of support your local the most idiotic, moronic argument to try and make, because like nobody goes that in any walk of their life. You don't only listen to Mancunian music, Scouse music, Irish music. You don't only wear clothes from these people. You don't only go to watch actors from these cities. It's an argument of an arsehole that just wants to feel superior in their sad little existences, and all that they can do is use that to belittle us. But like we all say, without fans from far and wide for every club, football isn't where it is. The money isn't in the game. The great players don't come. Without the worldwide fan base spending the money on jerseys, on trips over to these cities, on TV revenues, football wouldn't be where it is. And I think it's definitely the minority. Most people understand where football is and where fandom is. And none of us choose to catch the bug, to support the clubs that we do. Liverpool drew me in. And I'm sure United fans have their own stories and Newcastle fans, but it's just xenophobic bullshit is all it is, from morons that don't have the intellect to form a proper debate, and that's all they have. Imagine non-Scousers couldn't play for Liverpool. Then what? Exactly. It's just silliness from idiots. And I keep forgetting one thing as well. There's more of us than there is of them. So whatever club you feel, if you think that only local fans should have an opinion, well, you're underestimating and you're turning the back on the worldwide fan base that's there. And that's what we've always wanted to do here, is make sure people know wherever you're from, however long you've supported the club, the game, come in with the right attitude, be part of the community, and you're always welcome. No judgment from us. Right, ladies and gents, I will see you tomorrow. I'm going to record the update now, so it'll be out before 11 o'clock. Thank you again for an incredible night. Thank you to everyone that's hit the subscribe button as well. Appreciate all of your support. And yeah, let's see what happens tomorrow. We could get more news on Hugo Ekitike. Until then, much love. And Newcastle fans, keep being classy. We'll talk soon.